Has orchestrated vetting suspension. Also this afternoon, we will update you on ongoing negotiations to determine the new minimum wage. Plus this afternoon, Volta Regional Minister James Gunu assures residents in areas affected by acute water shortage of provision of water supply on Saturday. Oh, those are the big stories. I'm Kemeni Amano, and this is News Central. Developing this hour, the Supreme Court has granted an application for substituted service by lawyers of NDC parliamentary candidates for Techiman South, Okankwe Central, Tema Central and Ablekuma North constituencies. The party earlier filed an application to quash the High Court's decision which ordered the EC to collate and declare results of the 4 constituencies. Lord Edwasare is our correspondent following the story. He joins us with a bit more on this. Lord, what else can you tell us about this story that's developing in the last hour?
Right, Kemini. So at the last agenda, January 23, about 2 weeks ago, the NDC were in court to, make the motion so that the case will be heard regarding the question of the High Court ruling, but then they indicated that they hadn't been able to serve the interested parties, i.e. the NPP parliamentary candidates, the Clerk of Parliament, and then the Electoral Commission. Now, 2 weeks on, they indicated that they still hadn't been able to do so, and so they were praying the court to grant them permission to use the substituted service, and so that the case will no longer delay where it's delayed long enough. And Justice Henry Kofi, who is the sole judge who sat on the matter, granted this application. So it means that they would have to indicate that they should serve. The post will last for about 14 days. They're supposed to use mediums such as WhatsApp, the notice board of courts, the parliamentary notice board as well, and other options. We spoke to one of the lawyers of the NDC parliamentary candidates, Gideon Abushi. Let's hear what he has to tell us.
Yeah, briefly, what you made of today's proceedings?
Okay, so thank you very much. I was in court much earlier today at about 7 a.m. to monitor proceedings. What we applied for today before the Lordship was a substituted service. Last 23rd January when we were here, hearing was adjourned solely because we were unable to serve the parties, that's the NPP candidates. So today we make an application. Thankfully, the presiding judge has granted the substituted service. So our clerks and our team we are working with are going to file all the necessary processes and courts. Once that is granted,
we've attempted to directly serve the interested parties in the matter for some time now, to no avail. So today we came to move an application for an order so that we can serve them the process by substituted means. So those modes of service we clearly indicated in our affidavit, and the court has granted it.
So what's the mode of service you're going to apply now?
Oh, the court notice board and a few others.
There's been concerns that why didn't you serve them? I mean, Parliament has been sitting. Why did you not serve them when Parliament resumed?
The matter is still in court, so this is all I can tell you for now. Okay. After everything, we can have
Lord, obviously, that really key question you asked there, was not properly answered for you. But tell us, the substituted service and what it means for the evolution of the case in court at the moment.
Can you come again?
Yes, I'm asking what the substituted service they have been able to secure from the court means for the progress of the case.
Next 14 days, they will serve using WhatsApp. They were supposed to send the documents, which is the hearing notice, the statutory application, the affidavit in support, to the contacts of the lawyers of the NPP candidates. Also do post same on the Supreme Court's notice board, same on the parliamentary notice board, and then the clerk to Parliament, and then there's an address which is provided by the lawyers of the NPP candidates. All those approaches will be used by the lawyers of the NDC candidates. Emily.
Well, Lord, we'll leave our conversation here. Thank you so much for talking to us. We can now turn attention to Labour, where our sources say that the National Tripartite Committee may peg this year's daily minimum wage at nearly 20 cedis. This will represent this will be about 19 cedis, 97 pesos, a marginal increase over the 2024 figure of 18 cedis, 15 pesos. Let's have a quick chat with our Labour Affairs correspondent, Daniel Opoku. Daniel, good afternoon. Talk to us a bit more about what we are hearing from our sources about the increase in the minimum wage. Looks good, doesn't it? Oh, it appears Daniel cannot hear us at the moment, but that's what our sources are telling us. You know, sources within Labour are telling us that indeed it would appear that an agreement is being reached over what the minimum wage should look like for the year 2025. They're saying it would come to some 19 cedis, 97 pesos. Remember that from what we're going to show you soon on your television set or whatever device you're watching us from. In the past year, it was 18 cedis, 15 pesos. So we're seeing a little over 10% increase between last year and this year. Before then, in 2023, it was 14 cedis, 88 pesos. We take it a few years back. We know the last time it was a single digit was in 2018 when it was 9 cedis, 68 pesos. Since then, we've had it go up and up, up and up. And now we're hearing it's going to be 19.97 cedis. That will be an increase of 1 cedi, 82 pesos per day. And we are seeing an increase of 10% in that I told you earlier. Just a little over 10% is what we'll have if this proposed minimum wage for 2025 is agreed upon. And let's look at the real value of monthly minimum wages. Now, January 2024, the minimum monthly wage in the country was 363 cedis. So if you didn't earn at all, you expected to earn just around this figure. The consumer price index at the time for the year 2021 was 204.5. And so if you earned 363 as your minimum wage based on this CPI, we expect that the real value of your money was 177.51 cedis. Let's check the same values, right, for the year January 2025 as we work to get our correspondent on the telephone. The minimum wage as of this month, the first quarter of 2025, is nearly 400 cedis, 399.4. And then the consumer price index is jacked up a little bit if you look at it, from 204.5 to 252.6. But take a look at what happens when we look at or we input the figure for the value of your money, of your minimum monthly income of 399.4. It only comes to 158.1. So we can understand why, because the CPI is jacked up from 204 to 252. Well, let's have a conversation now with Daniel Opoku about this proposed minimum wage we're hearing from our sources. Daniel, what else can you tell us about this nearly 20 city, 20 cities minimum wage that our labor people are proposing?
Abani, good afternoon to you. That'll be quite interesting because when we look at the trend, as we just mentioned a short while ago, trend analysis of the various figures, possibly this will be the first time we are seeing just about one city, a few pesos been added to the daily minimum wage. But last year was 18 cities, 15 pesos. So let's say by close of this year, we are likely to see that 19 cities or 20 Ghana cities. And actually, this would not be something too good for a section of labor, because normally they meet to discuss the minimum wage. And right after discussing the minimum wage, that's when they proceed to discuss the base pay for or salary increments for all public sector workers. So what we have the minimum wage, which is a little bit lower, then obviously discussions at the base pay level for public sector workers are likely to increase slightly. So for instance, now we are hearing that by close of tomorrow, they are likely to make an official statement around 10%. So if labor should agree to the 10%, or if the tripartite, let me put that way, the tripartite, i.e. government, the Ghana Employers Association, and also those who represent organized labor, if all of them should agree to the 10%, then the subsequent discussions or negotiations on the base pay is likely to be inched around 15%, or it will not go beyond 15 or up to 20%. Then that really labor will go under serious. Their labor will actually be under pressure from their members, because the members always want to benchmark that of the minimum wage to that of the base pay. So if they are not able to get something appreciable at the minimum wage level, then obviously it becomes difficult for their subsequent discussions on the base pay. So let's see what happens by close of day tomorrow, when an official announcement should be made. But if they agree on the 10%, then clearly that would be some kind of a slight decline, because last year was around 22%, and this year you're getting 10%. Really, a section of labor will just not be happy with this.
Sound to you like a surprise, particularly when you look at the trend between 2023 and 2024, it went up quite substantially. What are we hearing from the quarters of the newly formed ministry?
Right. So the ministry is the arbiter. The ministry is the lead negotiator when it comes to discussing issues on the minimum wage and the base pay. So the ministry now sits together with the Ghana Employers Association and organized labor to discuss the minimum wage. Now, when they conclude with the minimum wage, that's when they proceed to engage with the bilateral discussion or bilateral negotiation between organized labor and government on the base pay. That's when they meet to discuss. Now we have in excess of 800,000 public sector workers. And if you agree on 10% at the minimum wage level, which is ideally supposed to be used by those within the private formal and also those within the informal economy. So for instance, if you work in the market, you work in the offices, you don't work directly under the government, and obviously your employer may have to pay you, this year may have to pay you around 20 Ghana cedis a day. And when you tabulate that or compute that at the end of the month, slightly close to 350, almost 400 Ghana cedis. And looking at the current macroeconomic conditions, when you agree on 10%, they meaning that a section of your members will come after you. So if they're able to agree on 10%, then on the base pay, which will be sound like a springboard from the minimum wage, you must increase the base pay to maximum of 15%. Or 20%, then possibly that will make labor happy. Beyond that, then clearly we are going to see members coming after their leadership when they begin the negotiations on the base pay.
I see. But talk us through it. What do they say is informing the marginal increase they are proposing?
Right. So, when we look at the position of the law, that's in this, the Labor Act 651, it calls for a consistent engagement on the base pay and minimum wage. But before we be able to discuss the base pay, you must conclude negotiations on the daily minimum wage. And normally when they meet, they set up their own technical committee. There are some key factors that they look at. They look at the macroeconomic indicators. They also look at inflation, also look at the food inflation, because a chunk of what workers earn today, a chunk of the monies they earn actually end up in food, where you have to spend a lot on buying foodstuffs and all that. Currently, the food inflation is beyond 23%. And that is really one of the factors they also look. They also look at cost of living. They also look at rent. and also what workers actually are going through. Then they do what we call the comparative analysis of the previous figure as against the current figure, the prevailing figure, before they arrive at a conclusion. So when you look at all these indicators, before they submit that to the plenary, i.e. at the leadership of government for the Ministry of Employment and Labor Relations, they have the leadership of the Ghana Employers Association, also the leadership of organized labor. The tripartite, they sit and they take a final decision. But as at the close of yesterday, 4 p.m., the indications we picked, whether they had finished with all these indicators, and they are likely to agree on the 10%, and that they should agree on 10%. We are not likely to see some kind of peaceful industrial climate, or you see a lot of anger on the labor front. But possibly one thing I can add is that because the sector minister, Mr. Dr. Rashid Bebo, is very new to the system, maybe it's likely, maybe enjoying some goodwill from labor based on this particular discussion, then he'll be able to call them not to embark on any action.
I see, but Daniel, just before we let you go, let's break down some of the terminologies that we've heard, the differences between the minimum wage, the base pay, and how they influence each other.
Right. So one look at the minimum wage. The minimum wage normally is meant for those who work within the informal sector or the informal economy. So, for instance, if you are a trader in the market and you have an employee, and it means that you have to pay the employee either 20 Ghana cedis, which is to be 2025, must pay the employee around 19 cedis, so 20 cedis a day, and you should not pay below the 19 cedis or 20 cedis a day. So you put all those things together, then at the end of the month, that is what you pay to the employee. So normally the minimum wage is meant for those who work within the private formal. When I talk about the private formal, for those who work within the private sector, so in the offices, at the marketplaces. Now, when we move that shift, slightly shift from that place to the base pay. Base pay means for those within the public sector, what we call the public sector increases that they make every year. So, but before we be able to do the public sector increase, we must be able to conclude the minimum wage.
On the minimum wage.
When we're able to conclude the minimum wage, exactly. When you're able to conclude the minimum wage, it also informs the Ministry of Finance to be able to make projections. Also, okay, so if you are begging 10% for minimum wage, then organized labor is likely to demand maximum of 15%. So it helps the finance ministry or helps government to make projections into their subsequent negotiations on their base pay. So minimum wage for private sector, public, then base pay for those within the public sector.
Very well, Daniel. Always a pleasure talking to you. Good to have you here. Daniel Opoku is our labor affairs correspondent, but we've been talking about these terms and terminologies, one of which is the National Tripartite Committee. In case you didn't know, I want to take you over it. Now, this committee, as you may have gleaned from our conversation, is to determine the national daily minimum wage. We don't need to go over what minimum wage is. We already learned that already. And, you know, the composition of this 16-member committee will include the Minister for Employment and Labor Relations. In this case, is the recently sworn in Dr. Rashid Pelpo. And then we also have the 5 government representatives, including finance, trade, planning ministries. Planning we no longer have because it's been co-opted into finance. And then the employers' organizations, also 5 members from there. You heard Daniel talk about the Employers Association, they're right here, and other business groups, really important to the National Tripartite Committee. Now, if you get, this is the 3rd group, because it's a tripartite committee, 3 different groups in one committee, composition of 16 members. And so we have organized labor on the end, the largest group we have, including TUC, all industrial unions, including whichever one you have at your workplace, all members of the tripartite committee that determines the national minimum wage. Today we're hearing that it could hit some 20 cities. We'll see how that plays out. We will inform you as developments emerge. In the meantime, let's take you to the Education Ministry, where Minister Haruna Idrisu has directed the management of the University of Ghana to reduce the residential facility fees from 3,000 cedis to 2,500 cedis across the board for both fresh and continuing students. The sector minister gave the directive when he engaged with the management and the Student Representatives Council of the university at the ministry here in Accra.
Act of Ghana. So GTEC will take steps to ensure that our investors comply with that directives. We want to do things in a manner that due process is respected and our lawful processes are respected. As I say, we have to bring proceedings, but our Vice Chancellor will be here, and this one I'll say it for her. You couldn't have Vice Chancellor coming to wait for you. It's not part of the training she's giving to you as students. So next time, do right. Because I'm a student activist, I couldn't at the beginning say this, or else you'll hear me. But next time, don't keep Vice Chancellor waiting for you. It's not done anywhere in the world. You owe her utmost respect, even as you protest that the fees are not right. Are we getting a compromise? I've said that if she'll serve you notice against the new academic year, government will see what it will do, given that she served us notice about the burdensome nature of accommodating the utility and charges. So 25% across board. Do we have a compromise? Then I can allow the regulator to sum it up and go and issue consequential directives to the affected institutions. Jeffrey.
Let's turn attention to Parliament now, where Chairman of the Special Ad-hoc Committee investigating the chaos which occurred on January 30 during vetting says that the suspension of the public hearing was not ordered by the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagbin. During the committee's first hearing on the said day, vetting chaos, or the said day, proceedings were abruptly suspended after the clerk to Parliament announced he would withdraw his staff, citing a lack of authorization from the Speaker to continue. Emmanuel Bejra says the suspension was orchestrated by the minority and not the Speaker. He spoke to TV3's New Day.
What the Speaker has not informed me. What I heard on the floor was that we should continue with the work. So we are continuing the work. Until I receive any instruction from the Speaker, we are not going to stop. We just suspended it, we'll stop. Then I picked my phone and I called the Speaker in their presence. And the Speaker said, yes, he did not ask us to stop. If he wanted us to stop, he would have instructed us the day he was giving his judgment. And so, in his judgment or statement, he stated clearly that the committee should continue its work and report to the House for the House to take the issue. And so then he said, if we like, we should go and read the Hansard, the official report, to see whether he has stated that we will stop our work. As it stands now, I'm here to meet with my committee members, and then we'll have a press conference today, and then we'll let Ghanaians know when we are resuming our work. But I am sure that tomorrow we'll continue with the first part, which is the witness that we brought to testify, which will be the public hearing. The second leg will be the in-camera hearing of the corporate. And then we'll show them the videos, and then we'll write our report and present a report to the House.
Let's have a conversation on the back of this revelation. Sami Obing is Executive Director of Parliamentary Network Africa. Sami, how does this come to you? Oh, it would appear Sami cannot hear me. Let's fix that connection, and when we return, we'll take up that conversation again. Don't go away.
One bucket of Flamingo paint is equal to several buckets of any other paint brand on the market. Flamingo paint, superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage. Flamingo paint, simply superior. You know, one bucket of Flamingo paint is equal to several buckets of any other paint brand on the market. Flamingo paint, superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage. Flamingo paint, simply
An upgrade is nice, but a double upgrade is amazing. And that's how we do it. Upgrade today to get even more with Step Up. If you're on GoTV Max and upgrade to GoTV Super, you'll get way more with GoTV Super Plus.
So cool!
Get big value. get big entertainment.
Very good.
Perfect! Upgrade and get even more with GoTV.
Yeah.
GoTV. Love it.
I love President Charcoal. Why?
When there are so many other charcoal toothpaste.
That's both charcoal and lemon.
Oh, does it?
Yes. Look right here.
Yes. Pepsodent Charcoal has two of nature's powerful whitening ingredients. With the power of activated charcoal and lemon essence, it removes stains and whitens teeth naturally.
Convinced?
Well, I am. Just look at your beautiful Pepsodent smiles.
For naturally whiter teeth, Pepsodent Charcoal.
Last Valentine's, the best you could do was this. You saw the grand gestures, then there was yours. This year, it's different. Daylex Swift's virtual treasure hunt is here. 2 iPhone 16 Pro Max, one for you, one for her. This Valentine's, it's not just a gift, it's a statement. Just big moves. Daylex Swift's virtual treasure hunt. 2 iPhone 16 Pro Max, one big win. Join the Spoil Them Big Boy Big Flex Virtual Treasure Hunt on 14 February 2025. Visit www.swiftvalentine.com or scan the QR code on your screen to register. Follow us on social media at Daylex Swift for more info. This virtual treasure hunt is powered by Daylex Swift Investment, the smart money move.
Of the public hearing was not ordered by Speaker of Parliament Alban Bagbin. Let's head to the phone lines now and speak to Sami Obeng, who is Executive Director of Parliamentary Network Africa. Sami, I was asking earlier how this revelation from the chairman of the committee, Emmanuel Bejra, come to you when he says that, listen, the Speaker didn't order the suspension of the hearing. It was orchestrated by the minority, supported generally by the leadership in Parliament.
Well, it's unfortunate that we have one day lost as a result of that, but it's quite refreshing to see the chairman of the committee, the honorable member for West, Mr. Bejra, trying to carry the public along on such an important matter, which requires the public to be interested and which helps to salvage the image of Parliament. It is very great to hear him say that in consultation with his colleagues, they are likely to resume the public hearings tomorrow because, yes, they've got 10 days as per the directive of the Speaker, unless, of course, the Speaker comes back and decides to add additional days. But until then, they've got 10 days within which they are supposed to give feedback on the subject matter. And the citizens are watching. We will not allow some of these internal politicking and caucus maneuverings to make the matter die, just like many of these issues that have happened in Parliament have died off. You recall that the 16 civil society organizations, which include us at Parliamentary Network Africa, that issued a statement earlier this week, had indicated that we'll be monitoring this process every step of the way, and we'll be doing whatever it takes to ensure that Parliament does not allow these things to die a natural death.
Very well, Sammy. Let's hear a bit more from the chairman of the committee, Emmanuel Bejra. Mawena Egbeta has been speaking to him.
Well, that would depend on them because they have not given me any work. The speaker who has given me work to investigate. So if they have anything at all, they should direct their thoughts to the speaker. So I'm not in their mind to know why they wanted us to stop. If they really have any reason why they wanted to stop, they could have even engaged me. They didn't engage me. They want to use the back door to do this. That was seeking to undermine you not only undermining me, they were undermining the speaker. What was I going to tell the speaker when the speaker requested for a report? Will I tell him that you have instructed, the speaker has not instructed anybody? What was I going to tell the person? So my integrity was on the line. Not only my integrity, the integrity of this house. I mean, so you saw clearly what happened. It's out there. Everybody has seen the videos. So what are we running away from? People went and members of parliament, honorable members of parliament, went under tables, breaking tables. Don't we have manners? Why are we called honorable members? If we don't have manners, we don't have integrity, then we should not be in this house. And I think it's time for us to sanctify this house and bring sanctity and order to this house. It's becoming too many, in recent times. Why?
SMP Emmanuel Kwesi Bejra is also the chairperson of the ad hoc committee probing the chaos that took place at the vetting of ministerial appointees. Sami Obing is with the Parliamentary Network for Africa. Sami, I mean, he talks about the incident undermining the authority, not only of the committee, but of the speaker. But we also know from his narration the fact that he said the minority had pulled out of the process prior to the cancellation or the suspension of the hearings. What do you think of this, the pulling out of the process in its entirety?
Well, if it is so, that would be most unfortunate. My reading of the standing orders of Parliament provides all the necessary legitimacy for this ad hoc committee of Parliament to do the work that it has to do. We also know, and we heard Mr. Speaker on the floor when he was taking back the suspension of the 4 MPs, that it was only the suspension of the 4 MPs that had been taken back, and every other action that was supposed to be taken, including the committee investigating and identifying whoever is culpable in the videos and making recommendations for plenary's decision, including the clerk of parliament being asked that the cost of the damages be quantified and not a single pesewa of citizens' money or taxpayers' money be used to pay, but it should be paid or borne by the members of parliament involved, including the clerk of parliament being asked to report the situation to the police. We'll be monitoring all of those. But I think that the committee has absolutely everything. I mean, they are clothed with whatever opportunity there is to be able to go into the issues and go into it forcefully. Members of parliament who have the opportunity to intervene or appear and offer testimonies, who fail to do so because their caucus may have pulled out, should not later come complaining of not being given a hearing, because this is a good opportunity to go make your case if you really are not, have nothing to do with what happened. And so for me, the committee, by virtue of the fact that it still will be able to form its quorum, it has a mandate, we had the mandate, it has timelines to deliver on its work, is at liberty to go about its work, because the people of Ghana are interested in this matter. And anything that goes to undermine the integrity and image of our parliament, all of us must shy away from it, including the members of parliament themselves, doing whatever it takes to bring back the lost integrity of the institution of parliament.
Indeed, Sammy, just two things and then we can end this conversation. Should this be taken lightly per the standing orders? Is there room for sanctions to be taken against this unauthorized suspension of the hearing yesterday?
I personally do not think that the Committee of Parliament should be distracted, and perhaps they should focus on the core work, which is the mandate given to the committee to identify whoever is culpable, to make recommendations and what have you. Of course, in Parliament, you would expect that people would throw in all manner of antics and gimmicks. I mean, filibustering is part of parliamentary work. Disrupting, processes just to delay it is part of parliamentary work. And they should be abreast with those kinds of things by now. But that should not chip away from the institution's ability or the committee's ability to go about its duty and go about it, within the confines of the law. And so for me, there should not be any distraction. The committee should focus on its work. Mr. Bajra and his committee focused on its work together with all the other committee members. Whoever needs to testify must see it as an opportunity to be able to make his or her case. And in the end, we expect to see what the results will be. And we expect plenary to do the needful, bearing in mind that the people of Ghana are watching the actions that Parliament takes on this particular matter. And we will either take Parliament very seriously or not take it seriously, depending on how this issue concludes.
I see, Sami, the 10-day countdown is still on. Thank you so much for talking to us. Sami Obeng is with the Parliamentary Network for Africa. Well, let's turn attention to health now. The impact of the suspension of the U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID support globally, has begun, taking effect on healthcare in the country. The Ghana Health Service, in a letter, has formally notified directors of the 3 regions in the north of the suspension, which will have direct impact on the supply chain of health commodities and the availability in these areas. The United States, through its USAID support, has contributed significantly to Ghana's development, particularly in areas like economic growth, democracy, education, health, and agriculture since the agency's 6-decade mission overseas. Over thousands of USAID employees already have been laid off, and programs worldwide shut down following the imposed freeze on foreign assistance by President Donald Trump. Well, let's get more specific with some of the programs and projects that could be impacted locally. USAID support cuts could impact programs like support for HIV and AIDS in Ghana. Remember that they have a very crucial contribution when it comes to HIV and AIDS medications in the country. Also, tuberculosis, or TB, as it's popularly called, medications. The USAID support cut will impact the availability of these medications, not only for people suffering from TB, but the impact on HIV and AIDS. Remember that persons with who are living with AIDS particularly are very vulnerable to TB as well. And then malaria drugs, mosquito nets and equipment. There's capacity building for human resources in the healthcare delivery and also in democracy and economic growth, like you've heard already. And then there's also maternal, newborn, and child health with a focus on preventing morbidity and adolescent reproductive health commodities. Obviously, wide-reaching impact here on the country. But what could this country also do for its people? Let's have a quick discussion on these issues. We're joined now by Ernest Amwabeng-Otson. He's chair of Global Fund. And Ernest, I do appreciate you talking to us. I do not expect this to be great news for you, but talk to us how your office is processing this.
Okay, thank you very much, and a very good afternoon to you. Yes, but before I go on, let me just correct the fact that I'm now the vice chair. I was previously in an acting capacity, but now as the elected vice chair. So this particular news has really hit us in a very bad way because the U.S. government is a very, very important partner when it comes to the fight against HIV and AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria. Now, through PEPFAR, the U.S. government gives us annually more than $7 million directly for HIV and AIDS programming. If we look at Ghana, we have structured our implementation in such a way that interventions in Western region, Western North, and Ahafo, these three regions, are primarily sponsored solely by the U.S. government through PEPFAR. So with this withdrawal, we're going to have very serious impact within these three regions. Then also through the President's Malaria Initiative, the U.S. government supports us to get bed nets, especially for our fight against malaria. And they also support us in the area of TB medications and all of that. So this particular withdrawal is going to have a very, very bad impact on us. And even more critically, they are also involved in logistics. They help us to implement what we call the last mile delivery, where instead of health facilities coming to the medical stores for their commodities, we have a company, Chemonics, that actually helps us to cut these commodities to the various health posts. At the minutest level, at the farthest point, the CHIPS compounds, the health centers, the clinics, and all of that, they help us. And so with this kind of withdrawal, it's going to have a very serious impact on us.
I see. But, you know, I want us to localize it a little bit more and talk about the Global Fund. What does this mean for your activities in the country? Are you losing your job? Are you finding alternative sources of funding to be able to do what you're set out to do?
Okay, so the Global Fund is structured in such a way that there are 3-year cycles of replenishment. So currently, for the period 2024 up to 2026, you know, there has been a vote of funds to support the work of the Global Fund between this period. So the impact will not be immediate. Between 2024 and 2026, there's been this vote, and so we're going to run. However, the U.S. government also made a pledge, and they are yet to fully redeem that pledge. So if by the 90 days that has been set, the U.S. government decides to take an adverse decision, then we're going to have a full-blown impact.
I see. The flip side of that is, you know, as a people, it's a very fine opportunity to find our own funding to our problems, health problems, particularly in the country. What would be your advice to the government of the day?
So my advice would be that we need to go back to the Abuja Declaration of 2001. In that declaration, African countries under the auspices of the African Union committed to spending 15% of their national budgets on health. And so more than ever before, we need African countries to actually honor this commitment. And so I would like to call on the new government here in Ghana as we prepare for our budgets in March. We need to take cognizance of the fact that a lot of the donor inflows may not be coming. And so we need to actually commit more resources to health. And then more specifically on HIV and AIDS, the first Mahama administration actually amended the Ghana AIDS Commission Act. And in that amendment, they introduced what they call the National HIV and AIDS Fund. Unfortunately, they left office in 2017, and so that trajectory could not continue. We had hoped that under the immediate past government, that fund, you know, would be operationalized. But for 8 years, we advocated and advocated. It never happened. So now that the president is back again, we are hoping that he will continue from where he started in 2016 and ensure that this very year, this very budget that will be read in March, we are going to have the National HIV and AIDS Fund announced as duly, constituted.
I see. And then as you're saying that if after the 90-day freeze of USAID funding, we still have about some 3 years to be able to raise funds essentially for these programs, right?
Yes. So as I mentioned, the U.S. government actually has made some commitments to the Global Fund, and we are hoping that after the 90 days, their final verdict will not be one that will be adverse, will have an adverse effect on our operations. If that happens, it's going to be catastrophic because it's going to impact ARVs. It's going to impact ARVs.
Indeed. And then as I was going to say, I mean, we've seen in Trump's first term, we saw the threat on PEPFAR as well. It didn't go through. And so we'll hope that after the 90 days, funding will resume again. But let's see how it plays out. Thank you so much for talking to us. Ernest Austin is Vice President of Global Fund here in Ghana. We'll take another break. When we come back, we'll bring you more stories. Welcome back. You're still live on News Central. We can now take you to Parliament, where my colleague, Christian Yale, is on standby with some updates from the Ad-hoc committee. Right, Christian. Christian, talk to us about what's happening as far as the next steps for the Ad-hoc committee is.
All right, Kemini, so what we know is that yesterday their duties or their probe or public hearing was brought to a halt due to the decision by the minority to recuse themselves or refuse to show up during the investigation. And so this afternoon, what we know is that very soon, or even as of now, we can confirm to you that some forms of engagement are ongoing between leadership on that committee to iron out the differences and see the way forward and probably later in the afternoon they would come to speak to us, to talk to us about what exactly their plan is going to be going forward, because per the earlier plan or the advertisement that they shared with us, they were to do the public hearing for yesterday and today as well, to interrogate witnesses that would show up before the committee in a way to submit their report within the 10 days that Speaker Alban Bagbin gave them from last Friday. And so that is the situation. We know that earlier we spoke to the chairman, which clip you played, and he alluded to the fact that despite the communication that we had received earlier that it was the Speaker who directed that they halt their duties, it was rather the Clerk to Parliament who directed that they suspend their public hearing until further notice. And so today, right now, that meeting is ongoing, after which they will come to tell us exactly what is expected with regards to their parliamentary probe into the vetting chaos that took place last Thursday. Kamini.
But how are the MPs in Parliament taking this revelation?
It's interesting to note that on the majority side, just as you would expect, they are always almost ready to cooperate with the committee to undertake this probe. Also because when you listen to Speaker's communication the last time when he reinstated the 4 suspended MPs, he noted, for instance, that he has told leadership from both sides of the House to cooperate with the committee in unraveling the real fact behind that chaos that marred the vetting, not only on Thursday, but also on Friday morning when we saw the minority walk in a bit late, which caused a bit of disruption to the activity or the vetting process, which was already underway. And so these 2 incidents are being investigated. So from the majority side, when you talk to the NDC MPs, they're always ready to cooperate, almost ready whenever the committee is ready to sit, and whoever is invited, they're going to cooperate. It is only the minority side that has some reservations. Which exact reservations, we do not know yet, but we know, for instance, that the ranking who was on that committee, Kwame Anyimadu Entry, for instance, communicated that he had received instructions from the minority leader, Alexander Fiomakin, to recuse himself, even though he had earlier sat on the committee to even question some of the witnesses who had come before it. So we are just looking forward, especially as the chamber sit or the plenary sit pretty shortly, to see whether that communication or that conversation is going to come up. Also because maybe the Speaker himself is out of the jurisdiction, it may not come up directly, but we look forward to that conversation coming up, Kems.
Christian Yale, thank you so much for the report. And Christian Yale joined us from Parliament, where he reports that the ad-hoc committee probing the chaos that took place at the Appointments Committee's vetting process is locked up in a meeting for, well, hopefully to discuss their next steps. We can now take you across the regions. Shutdown of the Kweve water supply system in the Volta region continues to bite hard as residents in Ho and the catchment area struggle to find alternative sources for water for domestic use. The situation has lasted since last week of December. There's more in the following report by our correspondent, Faisal Abdul-Idrisu.
1993 that the facility started operation. It was running on 3 pumps. It got to a point all the pumps got spoiled. 1 new pump was purchased in 2015, and that is what has been working up to today. And recently it got spoiled. They fixed it, it got bent again. So they went to repair it again, fix it. It was not able to pump the water uphill. They went to look for additional one, which they are working on now to ensure that by the close of this week, they provide water to the whole municipality and its environment. The other aspect of the situation is that they are trying to procure new pumps, and that should be arriving in March, because when you order the pump, it takes 3 months to deliver, according to the Ghana Water Company. So they are expecting 2 new pumps by March. However, the assurance they have given us is that by 30 days, water will start flowing in the capital. In addition to that, the Ghana Water Company is also helping with the Regional Coordinating Council to provide water to some institutions such as the hospitals, the schools, and the security installations to
or catch the full report in later newscasts. The voice you just heard is that of the Regional Minister, James Gono. Now, workers of the irrigation company of the Upper Region, ICOUR, in Navrongo have locked up Dr. Bonaventure Alegibam at the company's premises and deflated tires of the company vehicle to prevent him from leaving with it after he supposedly went there to chair a meeting. Dr. Alegibam was removed as MD of the company last year, but still keeps the official vehicle despite several failed efforts by the company to retrieve the said vehicle. Upper East Region correspondent Castro Senyala continues to follow the story. Now joins us with a bit more on this. Castro, what else can you report?
Right, so I can report that calm has been restored. As we speak now, the matter has been taken to the Navrongo police station, where the police have taken statements of both workers and that of the MD, and the vehicle has been impounded and is currently in the compound or premises of the Ghana Police Service and the Navrongo District Command. The workers are also dispersed, and but then the concerns continue to, that have continuously come from workers is that the vehicle should not be released because Alegibam is doing something they've described as illegal possession of government property, despite his being the fact that he's been removed from office, and so they would want the police to ensure that he doesn't get the vehicle again. We understand that he's been pleading with the police to release the vehicle to him, but we get information also from the police who say, or who have stated clearly that they would not release the vehicle today, tomorrow, or any other time until the matter has been resolved and a subsequent MD appointed. But as we speak now, calm has been restored thanks to the police. It would have been a different issue altogether had it not been for the intervention of the police. But the police quickly picked intelligence and rushed there and sort of contained the issue from becoming more violent as it was was going to be.
I see. Would you say that Dr. Alegibam then has been released from the locked room?
Yes, so actually he hadn't been locked in a room, but then he was locked in the yard of the company. The company has a fence, a wire fence, and he drove in there supposedly to have a meeting, as we are told. And then we also gathered that the workers had already got information that he will be coming because he's been coming, the past months he's been coming there, even after he was removed. And so when they got information, they've also prepared, and when he came in, they locked both gates. They had 2 gates. They locked both gates to disallow him from driving out with the vehicle again. They didn't have an issue with Alegibam himself. They said They said he could walk out, but for him to take the vehicle with him was the challenge. But as we speak now, he has also been left off by the police after his statement was taken. He was driven in the police escorted vehicle back to wherever he came from, and the police left the vehicle in their compound.
I see. Did we get any word from Dr. Alegibam?
Yes, I tried speaking to Dr. Alegibam because since these issues started, I've always tried to get in touch with him. And so when I saw him on the compound, I went to him to speak, but he flatly told me that he would never in this world want to speak to Castro because he believes that it doesn't owe me anything as far as speaking to me is concerned. So I told him I was acting professionally, and if he wouldn't speak to me, then I think I wouldn't force him to. And so I left. The workers expressed, some very serious issues.
Very well, Castro, I'm afraid we have to go now. Thank you so much for talking to us. Dr. Alegibam.
That's fine. It's no problem. All right. That's okay. No problem.
They are leveling some allegations against you. So I'm saying if you talk,
take them the way you want it.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
Okay?
That's fine. No, that's okay.
That is all.
But every time I say I want to talk to you, you refuse. So once again, I want to talk to you.
Well, I thought we left Dr. Alegebam in 2024. If you're a viewer or listener of 392.7, you know it's a very famous name thanks to Johnny's Bites. Anyway, that'll be all for our bulletin today. Thank you so much for watching us and staying through our time. I'm Kemeni Amano, and this is News Central. Bye-bye.